Good afternoon, everyone. This is another of the Able Marketing's Facebook Lives, streaming to the Able Marketing YouTube channel and our Facebook page, uh, facebook.com/, Able Marketing BC. And I'm really happy to have Chasen Mushiana with me here today from BZ Marketing. Chasen, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ben. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, it's kind of a long, convoluted story how we finally got to do this and get connected. And I'm trying to remember how we got connected because I think why we did that was there's a lot of commonalities in the types of backgrounds that we have for like work and training and the types of work that we do. And while we start to chat here, I'm just going to share your website in the background so people can have a look and see your website so they see what's going on. So, BZ Marketing is your company. You build fast websites. Why don't you start by telling me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So when I started making websites, and by the way, I'll also be revamping my own website soon, so
Right.
look out for
Of
that
course,
in
yes.
the coming months.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, when I started making sites, I realized a lot of the kind of basics were missing, just making sure things are simple and fast and just clean looking.
Right.
Sites were kind of looking overloaded to me in terms of information, lack of white space, just hard to follow in terms of the actual flow or user journey.
Right.
And yeah, that's kind of where I saw an angle and took it. Yeah.
That's awesome because as someone who also had built websites a long time ago, who doesn't build them anymore but has experience with web development, at least for myself, from an HTML and CSS perspective, as well as a content perspective, I've moved forward with always wanting to be more of a content writer and copywriter, varying forms of content than I ever wanted to stay within web development. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got started in the web development world? Was it just working for a company developing websites? You went to school for it, or was it something you did as a kid, as almost like a hobby?
Yeah. Well, it's speaking of, being something I did as a kid. Something I did as a kid was always sit in front of the computer. So back when
Right
there
on.
was dial up, and one of my
Yeah,
dream
right.
jobs was I just always thought it'd be cool to be in front of a computer. So it's kind of funny how things came full circle. And
Right.
although at the
Right.
time I was probably thinking that because I was playing games and not really
So you
working, of
were
course.
so you were playing games and surfing the internet during the dial-up days, like me. And I'm probably older than you are. I turned 50 this year, but I did have dial-up. I never played games that much on the computer, but I did. I couldn't live without the internet and probably surfing. So let's dive into a little bit more then about the types of work you're doing right now, in terms of who you're working with. Do you have a client sort of area focus? And like who's your ideal client?
Yeah, lately I've been working with a lot of trades. So we just
Okay.
recently launched a plumbing website, and just to get kind of the foundation up for him. And then we're going to be adding things
Right.
like content, more high quality imagery as we go.
Right.
So somehow I ended up working with a lot of trades, although that was never really my chosen niche. It was more just the niche chose me. One area that I do want to pivot to, in a way that I want to go to, is car modification shops. So the automotive industry is something that's obviously very interesting to me, and not so much dealerships or somewhere you would go to get your car serviced, but rather
Yeah.
somewhere where you would go to get exhaust done, wheels, roof
Fancy
racks,
stuff.
bumpers, all the fun stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Fancy souped up car
So
stuff. Cool. Okay. Okay.
yeah, and then that's so
Um,
me kind of combining some of my passions and
right.
trying to pivot that way is actually something I'm very recently working on. So
Yeah, and that's a good question because I think as someone who's helped a tradesperson with marketing in the past and explored that as an option and a way to work with people in trades because I felt like they needed marketing. I think one of the biggest things I discovered with trades was they felt like they didn't need it because they were getting consistent work or the industry they were in was busy or they had 3 months of clients lined up. So they didn't really need to worry about marketing their business. So, how do you think that's different from what you've experienced?
yeah, that's a great point. A lot of the trades guys I've worked with, for example, an HVAC person in North Van, he just gets a steady flow of leads through I think it was the Home Depot program or the Rona one,
Right.
where you can sign up to be a
Right.
certified provider of sorts, and he
Right.
gets a steady flow of leads that way. But what happened was with him and also this plumbing client, they both wanted to run ads, and
Hmm.
they didn't want to run ads, with going to a site that just didn't look good because
Yeah. Right. Of course.
it just
Of
wasn't
course.
there. So
Yeah.
um, I found that when they wanted to run ads is kind of when a lot of these guys found the need to pivot. So it
Right.
wasn't
Yeah.
so
Of
much
course.
leads, and it was
That's
also
interesting.
just it was also like running leads for, or sorry, running ads to get leads that are of higher quality or bigger size jobs. And an electrician we did a website for, he wanted to go into more commercial size projects. So it really depends on what they're looking for. But yeah, what I found is it comes down to when somebody needs to run ads or wants to run ads, and they're thinking, oh, like I literally don't have a choice. I need to bolster my website, make sure it looks good, or
Yeah.
they're trying to get away from doing kind of the smaller jobs and into the bigger ones.
That's really interesting because what I did when I helped a tradesperson with marketing was one of the things I did was look at a lot of tradespeople's ads on Facebook. And one of the things that I came to realize was you're right. They'd run an ad, but the way the ad was run wasn't great. And if you think about it in terms of what people now so obsessively call the funnel, in order to get
Mhm.
somebody from the ad through the funnel, you'd look at the steps in the funnel, and as a marketer and a content writer, and you probably have seen it too, and my own website experience, you're like, well, you've got an ad running, but you have a terrible way for collecting leads, and it like a terrible way for building a funnel. Like your ad goes to a Facebook page, so then what? Like it's not clearly spelled out for me that when you take me from your Facebook ad and I look on Facebook and I need a tradesperson to do electrical work, say in my house or in my business, it's not really easy for the person going through the funnel. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of times I find that's just when somebody is trying to run an ad themselves,
Yeah.
or they hire somebody who might be a specialist in just getting ads up and not the
Yeah.
entirety of the funnel. So they don't understand kind of the whole flow of, getting
Yeah.
someone to actually click in, and then from there, follow the steps to your desired call to action or CTA. Whether signing up for a newsletter or submitting or giving you a call, what have you. But yeah, if you're landing on a site or like a Facebook page and you're just left
Yeah.
there thinking, oh,
Yeah.
what do I do? It's yeah, it's not. It's definitely not a good use of marketing dollars. So that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so valuable to talk to you because you've experienced that like I've experienced it. You've done it as just somebody who's curious or who's done marketing, and that's why I think a guy like you is so valuable because you're helping people build their online presence. And I mean, I've been tinkering and playing with websites for like 25 years, even though I'm not a true developer. And it's like, you know what? Like people think they can move away from having a good online presence, right? If they want to run marketing campaigns. And I'm like, well, you can't. Like
Mhm.
I mean, you can, but like if you design a website for somebody and then they get leads from it, that's great. But like we said, like with that Facebook page, there's nothing on the Facebook page that says, please contact me and go here. You really need to step by step spell it out for people.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And the call to action. It's funny because CTA gets thrown around by
A
everyone.
lot.
It's such a classic marketing jargon thing,
Yeah,
but
it is.
it's
It
so
is.
important, and it's such a missed opportunity. I mean, a lot of times, even when you scroll to the end of a web page, you don't see a very clear call to action. Somebody scrolls all the way to the bottom. I mean,
Yeah,
to get somebody to do that is hard enough, but
right.
then to leave them hanging is just, yeah, huge missed opportunity. So there needs to be clarity in terms of user flow and the user journey and what you want somebody to do.
Yeah, and so do you help people with those parts of the journey as well, or are you just strictly a website guy? Because that doesn't, and that's not meant to sound like that's not valuable because it's huge. But do you help people with parts of the journey too, or are you strictly just helping people build websites?
Yeah, that's actually it's funny. You kind of juxtapose those there because actually that's where I try to kind of marry two of the things that I feel like I know very well and we do very well, which is having that flow and the user journey, and also creating a good website. I feel like it needs to go hand in
Yeah,
hand. It's
yeah,
one of those things where if you can have a nice looking website, it can look super great and flashy and all these things. But if you don't have a clear flow or call to actions or things that are very easily legible or clickable, and for example, contrasting button colors is an obvious one that sometimes is
Right.
missed by people. So things like that that show how to boost conversion for these websites is definitely something that goes hand in hand, and we want to do both of. So yeah, my
Right.
background's in marketing, and that's what I went to school for. So
Right.
it's one of those things that's super super important to make sure your website is actually doing the marketing for you and not just like a really nice looking brochure, because yes, that can convince some people, but
Yeah.
majority of people need kind of some guidance there.
All right, so let's go through a couple more things here. So, like, what's your background then in marketing? Because I know we talked about sort of some questions off the air. Did you train with marketing strictly in like web development, or what did you sort of go to school for?
Yeah, so I just got my BBA from Capilano, which is the Bachelor's of Business Administration, and I focused on marketing. So that was my
Mhm.
major there. And once I wrapped that up, I got a job marketing for a software company in Vancouver. And from there, I was got to touch on pretty much everything marketing because it was like a marketing team of essentially one.
You,
Um, and yeah, it was really great because it was a small company that was global, so we got to really really touch on a lot of things from email campaigns to marketing automations, CRM work,
yeah,
even starting a podcast, pretty much
nice,
anything marketing, and of course working on the website as well.
right,
But it just helped solidify all those things for a few years, and then before I eventually left the company to start my business and go full time on that. So yeah, that's a bit on the about the background, and I kind of see it as a way that it needs to be holistic. You can't do
right,
one thing without the other. Like,
yeah, right.
as I'm sure you would attest to, you can't have a
Oh
great
yeah.
looking website without good content, right? So
Well, I know you
yeah.
can't, but I mean, there's varying things that happen, and what I'm doing while we're chatting, even people on the live know, and when I share this to the YouTube channels, I'm just sharing something that actually Chasen actually posted on LinkedIn, which I think is really valuable. And you posted this a couple months ago, and I wanted to discuss it a little bit too, Chasen, if you have time, because you talked about top five criteria for a good website from a presentation that really resonated, right? And it said user
Mhm.
experience, focus on speed and simplicity. I remember an old rule was, and I don't know if I have it exactly in my head anymore, was that if people come to your website and they don't find what they need, or it doesn't load within a couple of seconds, they're gone.
Absolutely, yeah. So the rule of thumb these days is 2 seconds. And although that's pretty quick, I mean, we just got to kind of, take a step back and look at our own browsing habits, right? If something's taking too long to load, how many times have we clicked off? And you can get away with 3 seconds, and that's kind of really pushing it. But that's if you don't have an e-commerce brand. And yeah, so 2 seconds is the rule of thumb there.
Interesting. And I'm going to do a couple more things in this post because I think I really, because I shouldn't say I think I know how valuable this is. You talked about user interface. Clarity is key. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I guess in simplest terms, that's just giving people what they want in a very
Hmm.
obvious way. And it's not like, for example, you land on a health clinic's website and you're just trying to book an appointment. The
Yeah.
last thing you want to see above the fold, which is just jargon for what loads first before you start scrolling,
Yeah.
is, oh, here's our latest blog post, or here's our latest hire, and we have this promo going on, or whatever's going on. I mean, all you want to see is, oh, I can book my appointment here, and I can click here to book, and that's pretty much it. You want to be booking your massage and be done with it. So it's kind of I'm giving an example of a bad user interface there, and that's kind of ties into UX as well. So um, just basically the example in the post, which is being able to land on a site and booking an appointment within a few clicks. Um, if it's not very clear, which is the interface side, which is more of the design side. So, for
Hmm.
example, if that button to book, is a certain type of blue, and that in the hero image ends up being another shade of blue, and it's kind of hidden, and people need to think and look around for it. It's actually been shown to lower conversion, and yeah, which is definitely not good. And especially when you have repeat clients, you want to make it easy for them. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, obviously you cover all the five steps. I've actually shared it here in the chat while we talk, because then we move next to things like content. Well, that's what I do, the bridge between thought and action. And I really like this: quality imagery with shot copywriting is crucial. The right words can turn contemplation into action. There you go. That's conversion copywriting, right? That's basically
absolutely.
right. That's basically getting people to move through the website and complete the desired actions that you want to. And I can imagine that if you were to have somebody in trades, not that these aren't smart people, but you tell them all that kind of stuff rather than keeping it simple for them, they'd be just like, what? You know? Right. And it's,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
why a post like that from you is so valuable, right? Because I've talked to trades about the work they do, and they're like, well, yeah, this is how we do electrical work. And I'm like, hmm. Like, it's like, okay,
yeah.
whatever a mechanical contracting is, right? When they tell you
Yeah.
something. So it must be an interesting challenge for you too. A couple other things
Yeah,
for you.
it's
Yeah, go ahead. Go
sure.
ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, you know what? Most actually, everyone pretty much seems to get it in terms of, hey, you need good writing on your site, and
Hmm.
most of the times I can explain it, and most people see the value in it.
Right.
And yeah, it's I was kind of laughing at you're saying when an electrician or someone is explaining what they do, and yeah, it definitely just goes right over my head. I mean, it's
Same
one
with
of those
me,
things
right?
where,
Like
yeah,
it's like I've tried to help them understand funnels, and they're like, "What?" They're like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "Well, it's just like a buyer's journey. Like when someone comes to your website and they want to buy from you, like how many times they come and what are they looking for and why did they pick you, and maybe it's a referral, or maybe they know somebody who's had work done by you, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right?"
mhm.
And so I got a couple more questions for you because I'm not going to take this too long. So when you're working with a new client, how do you get started with them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we first get started, what I look for before we do anything is just to see if we're a good fit. So if I'm a good fit for them and they're a good fit for our company in the sense that what are they trying to achieve? So sometimes for example, there's times where we've had to turn away people because all they want to do is just do a couple of changes to the site, and something they want to achieve can be achieved in a couple of hours of work versus creating a brand new site.
Right.
And sometimes somebody might want something that's kind of like a world class website to compete with, let's just say, Lululemon, for example, at a budget that is not there. And that's one of the other things that we have to do, whereas that's the other end of the spectrum where things are, what they want is not achievable within that budget. So really, it's just one of those things to just have a conversation, uncover what their actual problems are, and yeah, depending on that, they can either go with us or not. Because sometimes, again, it's not website related, so that's kind of where we touched on earlier, having the marketing background and all that plays into this.
Right.
Is because sometimes it's like, well, you can just get some better content on your site because the site actually looks good, or talk to someone like yourself for that, or even just go, you just need to optimize your ads. I mean, if everything else is good and your conversion rate on how much people are clicking through on the types of ads that you're running is not good, then you need to focus on that
Yeah.
versus
Right.
just creating a new website and spending the money on that. Once we determine we are a good fit, then we basically start off with like a super short few questions questionnaire, which the most important question is, I ask them to send me a website or two that they like.
Right.
And going from there, I'm able to basically pull design direction from that and create something that's at least similar or at least meets the benchmark of their respective industry. For example, for a law firm that we're actually working with recently, just signed on, and going from there is, okay, can we make it better as well? So yeah, that's one of the main ways that we just get started, is first just seeing what they're looking to create, and then
Okay.
pulling from that.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's really valuable stuff. So it sounds to me like, just so I can recap, you're looking to do projects where people are looking for a complete website build or rebuild. That's your focus, rather than just minor updates.
Yes, although we do hourly work, it's the preference is yeah always going to be in complete overhaul, just because we have full control that way. And then a lot of times, if there's more minor problems, certain things are broken links, certain things aren't working, missing 404 pages. All these things can just be taken care of in the complete overhaul, which might even end up being more cost effective than doing a whole bunch of hourly changes.
Yeah, right. And got one final question for you then, because you've answered quite a few of the stock questions I had sent you. What's your most exciting project, do you think, to date? What's your most rewarding
Oh,
or one of your favorite ones?
that's a good question. I Yeah, it's got to be just in general. Working with the tradespeople. So, for example, one of the first sites that you see on my homepage
Yep.
is bluestonepainting.ca. And this was
Okay.
somebody who actually he doesn't live too far from me. And he was one of my first trades clients. And I guess he was just
Okay.
searching for some SEO stuff. He found me and we talked, and he originally just had a website he built himself on Squarespace.
Yeah, right.
And
Right.
yeah, so a lot of these guys are building their sites themselves, and they're not web devs first, right?
No,
They're
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 not.
painters,
They're not.
electricians, or they're HVAC, and they're experts in that, not website development. So the website was, of
Right.
course, it left a lot to be desired. So I said, hey, like if you're going to spend the money on SEO, it makes sense to just do a website first,
Right.
and then have something that looks nice. That way, when people land on your site,
Right.
they can actually get the right impression of the kind of work that you're doing. So
Right.
what we
Right.
did
So
was
how do
basically just overhaul the site,
right.
and yeah, so now when you land on it, it's not like, oh, this is a solopreneur one man team on Squarespace or Wix or whatever building the site himself. It's actually like a full on professional company that looks like they can handle pretty much any size job.
Right. Yeah, I'm just trying to find that website you mentioned on your site so I can share it.
Yeah, it's
Is it on the homepage?
yeah, it's there's an image of it on the homepage, one out of the scrolling couple laptop images there, but it's
Okay.
bluestonepainting.ca, I believe.
Okay, let's take a look at it because I want to share it with everybody before we shut down here because I want to see what you've done. Oh yeah, and it loads super fast too, just in case anybody needs to know. Right.
Yeah,
Good work, man. You
yeah.
got the whole. You got the whole like couple second. Okay, let's just have a quick look at Bluestone here. But yeah, thanks again for doing this, Jason. While I share this and we wrap it up, that's it's really appreciated, and it's really good to connect with you and see the kind of work that you're doing, and sort of your methodologies, like my methodologies for these kinds of things. And so, how's the client doing now after the website? Like, what was the biggest? What do you think the biggest gain was for them?
Yeah, really just having the confidence to link their site. So a lot of people have a website they're just not proud of.
Right,
So they need to do. It ends up causing more work in the sense that if they need to have more calls with the clients and explain what they're going to do. But for example, if you go to their services pages, they have uh,
right,
the step by step process of what somebody can expect if they're going to call him to have him come in his home and paint a whether it's a single room or the entire thing. So
right.
it just kind of takes a bit of a burden off the client. I wish I had a success story in the sense that, oh, he got like this huge contract
Huge.
afterwards, but yeah, haven't heard that yet. But from what I've seen, it's one of those things where he can actually link it and send it out to people, and if they want more information, and the website's working for him, which is a big thing that I like to preach as well, which is having the website work for you. As it says on my homepage, that it's your one salesperson that works for you 24/7. So
Well, that's true, right? People
yeah,
say that when they have their online business, or their online business is always open. And when you're a small
absolutely.
business like that, and you, like we've discussed, you've tried to do things like, um, you know, run ad campaigns and it doesn't work, and you blame the person doing the ads. But it's like people running the ads often, they're just doing their job. The other parts of the funnel, or your website, or where people are being directed to, often doesn't have anything to do with the ads person, right? It's your online presence, and it starts with your .ca or .com domain name. So you're providing a really valuable service here, and some really great work for small business clients. And you really have to applaud them too, because they've taken that step, right, where they've said, okay, I, I need to have an online presence where I can make myself look like the professional that I am when I do the work, but you don't see that translated into my marketing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's actually another super key piece too is the congruency between how you are offline and then how you are online. So you can, be the best electrician or the best painter and show up and do an amazing job and,
That's right.
clean up your mess and then get out and bill fairly and, do all the things right. But if your website looks dated
Yeah.
or anything is going on with it, that's not professional looking. It's that trust doesn't come through and that credibility doesn't come through online then. And these days everyone checks out. Most of the times when you're looking for a service, you're looking on Google, and where do you go
Yep.
from there? Usually on the person's website, right, to get a look at the kind of work that they've done before.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for your time, Jason. Let's wrap it up there. We'll talk to everyone soon. Feel free to check out Chasen's website. It's https://bzmarketing.com. Client example was bluestonepainting.ca, which I've shared in the chat. And we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thanks so much, Ben, for having me.